Over the past several years, South Asia has experienced what some have called its own Arab Spring. In Sri Lanka, mass protests forced President Gotabaya Rajapaksa from office in 2022. In Bangladesh, students helped topple Sheikh Hasina in 2024. In Nepal, another youth-led movement brought down the government in 2025. And now, the cockroach movement in India has rocked Modi's BJP government. The causes were different, but the pattern was similar. Economic frustration, corruption, entrenched political elites, and young people who felt shut out by the system. But removing a government is only the first stage. The harder question is what comes next. 2 years after Hasina's fall, Bangladesh has held a credible election, returned to civilian rule, and open investigation into abuses committed under the previous government. But the student-led party won only 6 seats. The established Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP, won 209. The Awami League was banned, political violence has continued, and reform designed to prevent another authoritarian government are already being disputed. So did Bangladesh's student movement succeed? The 2024 uprising began over a quota reserving 30% of government jobs for descendants of veterans of Bangladesh's independence war against Pakistan. Students argued that the system favoured families connected to Hasina's Awami League, but the protests became a national revolt after the government responded with lethal force. The killing of student Abu Sayyid became a symbol of the crackdown. The internet was shut down, curfews were imposed, and security forces were deployed. United Nations investigators later estimated that as many as 1,400 people were killed. By August, the movement had become a rejection of Hasina's 15-year rule, during which elections became less competitive and opposition figures, journalists, activists faced growing repression. Hasina fled to India on 5th of August 2024, and Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus took charge of an interim government. Its main achievement was stabilization. Administration inherited high inflation, falling foreign reserves, and a banking system weakened by corruption. It restructured parts of the banking sector, launched asset recovery efforts, and prevented a deeper financial crisis. Foreign reserves increased from roughly $20 billion after Hasina's fall to around $30 billion by the 2026 election. It also created reform commissions covering the constitution, elections, judiciary, police, and public administration. Their proposals became the July Charter, designed to stop power from becoming concentrated around one prime minister. Then, in February 2026, Bangladesh held its first credible election in almost 2 decades. Polling was largely peaceful, the losing parties accepted the result, and power was transferred to an elected civilian government. Around 68% of voters also backed the July Charter in a referendum. On those measures, the student movement was successful. It removed an increasingly authoritarian government and reopened democratic competition. But the election also exposed the limits of the revolution. The Awami League was banned from participating while senior figures faced prosecution over the 2024 crackdown. Hasina was later convicted in absentia of crimes against humanity and sentenced to death. For victims' families, this represented accountability, but critics questioned the death penalty, the fairness of an in absentia trial, and the danger of justice becoming political revenge. The election was therefore credible, but not fully inclusive. That matters because Bangladesh has a long history of governments using courts, police, and state institutions against political rivals. If the Awami League remains permanently excluded, the new order could reproduce the same pattern under different leadership. The second limitation was the students' failure to turn street power into electoral power. The National Citizens Party, formed by leaders of the uprising, won just 6 seats. The BNP won 209, while Jamaat-e-Islami secured 68. This was not simply because the movement had lost public support. Protests reward speed, moral clarity, and mass mobilization. Elections reward money, local branches, experienced candidates, and years of organization. The students had legitimacy, but the BNP had a nationwide political machine. The NCP also alienated some secular supporters through its alliance with Jamaat-e-Islami. Many voters ultimately chose the BNP because it appeared more experienced and better able to manage the economy. The result was that Bangladesh removed one political dynasty and returned to another. The new Prime Minister, formerly exiled Tariq Rahman, is the son of former President Zia Rahman and former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. The key question is whether the BNP will reform the system that brought it back to power, but early signs are mixed. The party has resisted parts of the July Charter that would weaken the Prime Minister's influence over appointments, the judiciary, and independent commissions. It has replaced officials appointed during the interim period and allowed some reform measures to lapse. This suggests that the BNP may support reform in principle while resisting changes that reduce its own power. There are also concerns over law and order. Human rights groups have reported political killings, death in custody, and alleged extrajudicial killings. The government says conditions are improving, but local violence, weak policing, and a culture of impunity remain serious problems. The army presents another test. It helped end the crackdown, supported the transition, and returned to the barracks after the election. That is an important democratic achievement. But the military still effectively runs a shadow government with extensive economic interests, including businesses, land, schools, university, and major construction contracts. As long as it remains a major economic actor, it will continue to have a stake in political decisions. So, did the student movement succeed? If success means replacing Bangladesh's political elite, ending political violence, and building institutions strong enough to prevent another concentration of power, then not yet. The movement changed the government, it opened political space, and forced the country to confront abuses that had previously gone unpunished. But it did not dismantle the political and military structures that shaped Bangladesh before 2024. Bangladesh's student revolution was therefore a successful uprising, but an unfinished political transformation. And 2 years later, its final outcome depends on whether the new government is willing to limit its own power.